What's going on, guys? Welcome back. And today I'm going to be counting down my top four. Four trilogy enders of all time, or trilogy endings of all time. And the reason why four is just because I love a lot of films, of course, and it's not because I just couldn't think up five. And I probably would have been able to come up with five, but a lot of trilogies that I really loved have kind of not become trilogies anymore. Such as Toy Story 3. I would have said that was a great trilogy ending, but there's now Toy Story 4 and it's no longer a trilogy. I don't hate Toy Story 4 by any means, but stuff like that, in many cases, many films are not trilogies any longer. They have now had a fourth sequel and are no longer considered a trilogy, such as The Avengers. There are no Marvel trilogies on here, and there are no Star Wars trilogies. I don't think any Star Wars trilogy has ever had a perfect ending. But anyway, getting into my top four. Starting off at number 4, we have The Dark Knight Rises. And I've expressed how much I love the Dark Knight trilogy. And this is the one that I never really saw until my brother recommended it, and he told me he thought it was the best superhero film of all time. And I mean, that is a debatable point, or that is an arguable statement. But I don't agree with all the criticisms about it. It doesn't have any faults that I feel like the other two in the trilogy don't also share. They're just nitpicky things, and people seem to bring them to another level as if they're like actually huge problems with the storytelling, and it's not really. I think the message at the end with the Dark Knight literally and figuratively rising, and the idea that has been running throughout the entire trilogy of Batman being a symbol and that anyone can become a hero, with Officer Blake or John Blake becoming Batman or Robin at the end, and him literally rising, and also Bruce Wayne rising as a person, but also Batman rising as a symbol. I think it's just incredible. I think it's incredible. I think it's a great ending to a series, which is something that I don't feel like we get a lot now these days. So anyway, that's why The Dark Knight Rises is at number 4. But then at number 3, we have Spider-Man 3. I know this is kind of an unpopular opinion, but this is my favorite of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and it's one of my favorite comic book films of all time. I know that's a very, you probably think I'm being hyperbolic, and maybe I am, or you may think I'm, being a little too, I'm praising it too much, but the themes in comic book films nowadays don't bother to go past, oh, it's sad that a character died. Like in Avengers Endgame, sure, Tony Stark had a lot of backstory, but the saddest thing about that movie is that Tony Stark died. Okay, that's just the character dying. In this movie, you have a story that's told throughout it about Peter Parker, and about how Peter Parker is not a perfect person. I just said a lot of P's there. And then Sandman comes up to him at the end, and the man who basically killed who Peter thought of as a father. And he tells him, I've done terrible things, and I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I want you to understand. And Peter Parker, this person that we've seen do all these horrible things, like punch his girlfriend, horribly scar his best friend, and do all these horrible things, says, I've done horrible things too, and I forgive you. That's beautiful. We don't see anything like that in comic book films, that anything that on that level of emotion in comic book films that are able to go to that level of height in terms of the emotions. That is a very deep concept, and I love that this film explores that. So that's why Spider-Man 3 is at number 3 on my on my list of 4 trilogy endings. Then at number 2, we have How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. If you want to see a more in-depth analysis of this ending and of this film, go to my original review and of my top 10 films of 2019 list. This film just really hit me on an emotional level personally. It probably made me appreciate it even more than I initially did. And once again, go to my top 10 list of 2019 if you want to see more on this. But the themes that have been running throughout the trilogy are perfectly wrapped up here, and it's a beautiful ending to a story that I've grown up with for a while. And it's just a beautiful film, and is a perfect ending to a trilogy, and does something that my number 1 does that not a lot of films do nowadays. And of course, my number 1 is The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. Obviously, I love Middle-earth, that's why I call this channel Hobbricks, and this film has my favorite ending of all time, and it is my favorite film of all time. There are some things in it that you can argue haven't aged well, because it's a film that came out in 2003, and there's some corny moments that I laugh at quite a bit, but the storytelling in it is just incredible, and it is a book adaptation, so there's a point to be argued about whether or not a book adaptation is, good enough to be reckon is a perfect film, but I mean, it won the Oscar for Best Picture in 2003, so I mean, there's the proof. But the way it ends with Frodo giving Sam the book, and if you've seen it, you'll understand. He gives Sam the book that Bilbo started, and Frodo continued. And he says, Sam, you get to fill in the last pages. And that's beautiful to me, because that's something that How to Train Your Dragon 3 does, as well as this film, which is it leaves the end of the story open to the rest of your life, and basically Sam's story is going to be your story. You are filling in the rest of the story. And I think that is a beautiful message that they portray in this film, and I love stories that end like that. So, of course, maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a huge fan, but Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King is my favorite film of all time, and is easily my favorite trilogy ending of all time. So please let me know, what did you think about this list? I know there's some unpopular opinions here, such as Spider-Man 3 for sure, but please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. What are your top 4, or maybe if you can think of a top 5 trilogy endings, of course, let me know them all in the comments below. But as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.